So friends, good afternoon. On behalf of My Retired Life Foundation, we welcome you all to this exciting evening. And today we have a program on a very, very interesting but very useful topic, that is the preservation of the fruits and vegetables. It is much less talked about, less practiced, but ought to be done thing if we really want to improve the overall health and overall nutrition in the country. And to talk on this particular topic, we have a very eminent expert on this particular area, Madam Rema Radhakrishnan. And this is through the initiative of Madam Krishnaveni. So I request Krishnaveni Madam to please take it forward the session, Madam, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all my friends. Mrs. Rema Radhakrishnan is a good friend of mine. She is presently based in Bangalore. She has a rich academic background with a master's in HR and a BA training too. She has worked for over almost 4 decades, 37 years of service with Food and Nutrition Division of Ministry of Women and Child Development. Her postings have spanned between many states of India, Cochin, Trivandrum, Chennai, Madurai, Bangalore, and so on. And she was with the Nutrition Division of Ministry of Women and Child Development. In her stint with there, her main focus was on prevention and control of malnutrition among the marginal population especially. So she has also popularized fruits and vegetable consumption in this aspect and encouraging the community to grow their own requirements in kitchen gardens and trained them in that field too. She is here with us today to share her rich knowledge and help us to know about the preservation of fruits and vegetables. And September month, apart from an Alzheimer awareness month, is also announced by our Prime Minister as Nutrition Month, and September 1st to 7th is a Nutrition Week also. So we are in the right track, MRL being the pioneer in many things, starting on a nutrition talk, which will be very useful. Let me assure you, you will definitely gain quite a lot of insight into preservation of fruits and vegetables and a surprise gift at the end of the talk, which will announce later. Thank you. Over to you, Rema.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you very much, Veena ji, for this beautiful introduction. Today's topic for discussion is very, very special. As Veena ji said, it coincides with the National Nutrition Week. But now since 3 months back, they have changed from National Nutrition Week to National Nutrition Month. So the whole of September is being observed as a National Nutrition Month. And another very, very special occasion is that the United Nations has declared this year as a year of fruits and vegetables. So that's how I selected this topic. Veena ji was telling that we are encouraging kitchen gardens, but along with kitchen gardens, we are also encouraging people to have balcony gardens, terrace gardens, backyard gardens, because growing of these fruits and vegetables is very, very crucial to maintain our normal health. So you see the title of the title of the year today is Fruits and Vegetables, Your Dietary Essentials. So the first half of my talk, I will be focusing on the benefits of fruits and vegetables. And in the second half, I will go on to the preservation techniques. Now, as you all know, fruits and vegetables help us with our physical, mental, and emotional health because they contain not only macronutrients like fats, carbohydrates, and carbohydrates and proteins, but they also contain minerals and vitamins and are very, very essential micronutrients plus phytochemicals. So fruits are very helpful to us in all these respects. Now, in the first instance, I wouldn't be wrong if I say that they promote and strengthen our immune system because they're extremely rich in vitamin A, calcium, iron, and folates. And in the present scenario with our pandemic in place, fruits and vegetables play a very important role for building up our immune system. Secondly, several studies have shown that people who eat fruits live long and healthy lives. It has been proved that if you take about say 7 to 8 servings of fruit per day, one serving is about 30 grams. So 7 to 8 servings comes to around 200 to 250 grams of fruits and vegetables per day. If you take, you can have a better mental health status. It lowers your risk of depression and anxiety. Then it is abundantly rich in antioxidants. So prevention of cardiovascular diseases also is taken care of when you consume a lot of fruits and vegetables. Then another important difference between these fruits and vegetables is that it is very rich in fiber content. So it lowers the risk of cancer. Then it lowers the risk of constipation, lowers the risk of obesity, and it lowers the risk of diabetes. Then because of these probiotics which it contains, fruits and vegetables give you better gut health also. Your digestive system is also improved. Now, so these are the, in brief, I have summarized the benefits of fruits and vegetables. And now going on to the quantity of fruits and vegetables which you should consume, I will be showing you the food pyramid. But before I display the food pyramid which I have, I would like to know whether you are aware of what the food pyramid is and what are the constituents in that pyramid. Anybody can answer that? You may have to go back to, you may have to go back to your screen. Pardon?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Put on chat instead of unmuting, please.
Banana contains lot of potassium.
Yes. I'm talking about the food pyramid. It's a pyramid shape, and the pyramid is divided into different portions, which indicates how much of cereals you should take, how much of proteins you should take, how much of milk products, how much of vegetables, etc. Are you aware of that?
To some extent, yes.
Yeah. So what is at the base of that pyramid?
You're not shown the.
Okay. No, I wanted to know, show you, tell me about the old pyramid, because there is a change. That's what I wanted. That's why I'm asking you.
Carbohydrate.
Carbohydrates at the base, isn't it? Okay. Next to carbohydrates.
Protein.
Proteins.
Vitamin C.
After that,
Vitamin C.
Vitamins.
that's your vegetables. Okay, I'll focus my pyramid now. You can have a look at it. This pyramid was brought in 2020 because United Nations, they realized that people were going into lifestyle diseases because of wrong food consumption practices. So from the base of the pyramid has changed. Earlier it was carbohydrates, which was at the base. Carbohydrates means it used to be your sources of all cereal grains like rice, wheat, ragi, jola, millets, etc. So that they have removed, they have moved it up. Instead of it, they have brought vegetables, which was in the third division. So fruits and vegetables have come at the bottom of the thing, and you see it is wider at the bottom. So wider at the bottom means you consume more of these fruits and vegetables in unlimited quantities. And they have shifted the carbohydrate sources, that is your grains and cereals, to the second position. And then over that, you have your sources of proteins like your fish, meat, eggs, and all your pulses and legumes. And then your milk products, cheese, etc. And finally, they have placed the healthy fats. So we take very little of fats and we take more of fruits and vegetables, moderate amounts of carbohydrates and proteins. So this is the latest food pyramid. Keeping this in mind, I'll just show it to you how you should consume your food in terms of a plate. So this is how your plate should be. You take your plate and divide it into 2 equal halves. On the left side, you fill it up with vegetables and fruits. That means almost 70% of vegetables and 30% of fruits are on the left side. On the right side, you have your grains and healthy proteins. So whole grains, you can take about 25% of that plate and another, 50% of the right side and another 50% proteins. So this will be your basic diet. In addition to that, you will have your little oils and fats and water. When you use fats, see that you use only healthy oils. Like for example, you use olive oil or canola oil. And of late, they have been started recommending coconut oil as an ideal medium for cooking, because all the earlier studies have been disapproved, saying that coconut oil is bad for health. Then the fruits and vegetables, when you select them, see that you have a greater variety of fruits and vegetables, especially go by the colors of the fruits. The brighter the color, the more the antioxidants and the more the nutrients. And eat plenty of fruits of different colors. Then on the right side, there's a glass of water placed. The water was also an essential constituent which you have to take. And when you drink water, any liquid which you can take, which you take is considered as water only. So drink more of water. Tea and coffee, when you take, restricted just to 2 cups a day, because the milk in it, they say, has a harmful effect now, because the milk which we get is not that A2 milk, and that has a lot of hormonal things, and it is causing a lot of disturbances in the humans. So of late, people are shifting from animal milk to plant-based milk, like coconut milk, almond milk, groundnut milk, etc. And then you avoid the sugary drinks, especially those which are aerated. Aerated ones like Coca-Cola, Fanta, etc. These should be avoided, because those sugars cause more damage to your system. The acids in the sugary drinks can even destroy your bones. So please avoid sugary drinks, take fresh fruit juices. Then your whole grains, it's better to avoid all the polished, like polished white rice, etc. Instead, you go for whole grain rice, red rice, millets, etc. Avoid white rice, avoid white bread, and avoid white sugar. All the refined items should be avoided. Then when you come to the fleshy foods, eggs are okay. Fish and poultry are okay, but limit your red meat. Red meat is not advisable. Then you can have cheese and any other protein sources which you like, paneer and all, can be added in this portion. So I hope you got an idea of how to plan your diet. Okay, more of vegetables and fruits, less of grains and other sources. Now the next slide. This shows you that when you select your fruits and vegetables, go by the colors. You remember your traffic signals, they have red, green, orange, etc. So you go by those colors. And you also have in addition your blue and purple. So blue and purple fruits and vegetables are supposed to have antioxidant properties that can reduce the risk of cancer. It reduces the risk of stroke and heart diseases. As examples of purple vegetables, you must be quite familiar. Your purple cabbage is there, baigan or eggplant, brinjal is there, then beetroot, and all the berries, purple grapes, plums, passion fruit, etc. These all come under this category, very rich in those antioxidants. Then you have red colored fruits like tomato, capsicum, radish, etc. These help to reduce the risk of cancer and improve your heart health. The lycopene present in tomatoes is very good in this respect. So even if you're not able to get any other fruits which are red in color, just eat some tomatoes. Then we have the orange and yellow fruits. These contain carotenoids. There's another source of which get converted to vitamin A in the body. These keep your eyes healthy. As examples, you have your carrots, pumpkin, squash, grapefruit, lemon, mango, a papaya, orange, etc. And then the next one is your brown or white. Though the outside may be yellow, the inside portions will be white or brown. And these are good sources of phytochemicals with antibacterial and antiviral properties. They're also good sources of potassium, especially bananas are extremely rich sources of potassium. So for examples, you have these vegetables here like cauliflower, garlic, ginger, onions, banana, jackfruit, peach, pears, etc. And finally, we go on to our green vegetables, all your green leafy vegetables and any other vegetable which is green in color. They're very good sources of calcium, iron and folates, and also your phytochemicals, which has anti-cancer properties. Now, this takes us on to our topic, which I'm going to discuss now, why preservation. But before that, can you tell me what is the difference between your fruits and vegetables and your other cereal grains like rice, wheat, pulses, etc.?
Fruit and vegetable cannot be stored for long.
Yeah, why they are highly perishable? Why are they highly perishable?
Yeah, because they are highly perishable. Correct.
Water content.
Right, that's right. Very good.
Yeah, a lot of water contains.
Yeah. So they are highly perishable and they have a very high content of moisture. Almost 70 to 90% of the fruit or vegetable has more of moisture. And moisture is something very, very essential for the growth of microorganisms and enzymes. So the three causative factors which cause fruits and vegetables to get spoiled are number one, moisture, number two, enzymes, and number three, microbes. Moisture is nothing but water. You all know that when you have a high water content in your pickle or any cooked vegetable, if you leave it with water, even bread, if you leave it in a moist area, it gets spoiled because the microbes thrive on water, just like you and me, like how we find water as a very essential ingredient. Microbes also require a lot of moisture content. So fruits have these microbes not only in the atmosphere, but even inside the fruits. And these microbes are divided into three. You have bacteria, then you have molds, and then you have yeast. Bacterial spoilage happen. When a bacterial spoilage happen, you can easily make out from the smell of the fruit. That rotten smell comes, and the fruit becomes sort of mushy and soft. Whereas if spoilage happens due to molds, molds is nothing but your fungus. This fungus you will be seeing in pickles and your bread molds, etc. Sometimes it's a white cotton-like ball. Sometimes it's white in color. Sometimes it's black. Sometimes it's red. It is greenish, etc. So this is easily visible, and you can easily make out that the spoilage is due to molds. And the third, third item which comes under the microbial group is your yeast. Yeast can be both beneficial and harmful. When they cause fermentation in certain products, we consider it as beneficial. Like for example, when you want to make wine out of grapes or something like that, then we introduce yeast into it. But at other times, when you have some pickles and all, where you have not controlled the moisture content, these yeast can cause fermentation, and then you have to throw away that product. And enzymes, I hope you know what enzymes are. Enzymes are naturally occurring chemical substance present in all fruits and vegetables. To give you an example of an enzymic reaction, I can tell you what happens when you cut, you say a banana or apple or say brinjal and leave it exposed. When you do that, have you noticed any change when you leave these fruits open for some time? If you cut a banana,
it turns black.
It turns black or brown. So this is an example of an enzymic reaction. It changes the color because it's not harmful, but it changes the appearance and the texture. So these enzymes also need to be arrested at times. So we'll go on to see how we can control these factors. And when preserving, you just make a note that if you are to preserve anything, you select them as fresh as possible. And select only seasonal fruits or vegetables because during seasons, they are available in plenty and you'll have plenty to preserve. What is available, you cannot consume at one go. So the excess you're going to preserve. And when you take advantage of the seasonal fruits and vegetables, they will also be cheaper during the season. And another reason why we preserve is to make them available during off-season. I told you that fruits and vegetables are very essential for our health. And we may like to eat certain varieties of fruits, which may not be available during that particular season. So during the season, if you have preserved it, then you could use it whenever you want later. So to use during off-season, we preserve. And then, of course, to send to your loved ones who are living elsewhere. Now, all of you are in Mumbai, but you may be having loved ones somewhere else. So to say you would like to share those materials or they would like to taste your food. So these can be preserved and then passed on to them. Now, I'm going on to the preservation methods now. The first causative factor which I told was presence of moisture. Now, how do we go about removing moisture? You must be doing something like this, drying. I'm sure you have dried many fruits and vegetables in your own homes. Yes or no?
No.
No.
Yes, yes. We dry them.
Yeah, mango, you would have made
Mango,
amchur out of
mango.
it.
Yes, we are done.
Papad,
Yes.
papad, then
And even
chilies,
green chilies also.
bitter gourd, beans, lady's finger. There are so many items. So the moisture can be removed by drying. This drying is normally done by exposing it to the intense heat rays of the sun. And this is called a natural drying. We have another method also which removes the moisture. This is called dehydration. Now the difference between drying and dehydration is that drying is natural when you expose it either to the heat rays of the sun, or you keep it in a place which is very airy where you have some lot of breeze coming in, like maybe under the fan, and dry it. So that is natural. But artificial means when you want to dry the fruits and vegetables, like for example, it's a rainy season and you want to preserve something or dry something during that period, then you could use a dehydrator. This is a mechanical device. I will be showing you the picture of these dehydrators in another slide. In this dehydrator, what we do is we keep either the fruit or the slices or the juice or whatever form we want it to be dried in trays. This is almost like an oven. There'll be 2 or 3 mesh trays. We cut our fruit or slice it or put the whole fruit on these trays, set the time and the temperature, where we control the heat and the humidity. And then when it is completely dried, we can take it off. Dehydration can be done anytime when you want, whereas drying you can do only when the sun is available for you. The next method of preserving is by inactivating the enzymes. I told you enzymes cause discoloration. Sometimes it can cause change in flavor also. So for inactivating enzymes, we have 2 options. The first option is heating it. Heating, you just raise the temperature of the fruit or vegetable to either boiling point or beyond. And when you do that, the enzymes become inactive and that enzymic activity will stop. The other method of inactivating the enzyme is by cooling. In cooling, what we do is we bring the temperature much below, say even 0 point. In cooling, you can use either refrigerator or deep freezing. Heating is a more permanent method of destroying not only the enzyme, but also microorganisms, whereas cooling is a temporary method. In cooling, what happens is when the temperature is very low, enzymes cannot act. Whereas when you raise the temperatures, some enzymes will act. In a warm climate, enzymes can be active. So cooling is a temporary method, whereas heating is a permanent method of inactivating enzymes. And the third precaution which we have to take is to destroy all the
Can you give examples? Can you give example of enzymes preserving, heating and cooling? Please give some examples.
See, just to give you an example of enzymes, these enzymes not only bring about change in color, but they also help in controlling the ripening of the fruit. For example, when you take your mangoes from your garden, you don't wait till it becomes fully ripe. When you just take it at a fully mature stage. So when you take out this mango and then you keep it in a dark place, you find that this green mango has changed into a fully ripe mango. Now, how did that happen if you have taken it out from the tree? That is due to the presence of the enzyme. The enzyme causes a chemical change and makes a underripe fruit become into a ripe fruit and then an overripe fruit. So if you don't arrest the activity of that enzyme at the ripening stage, correct stage, the fruit will become overripe and it will get spoiled. So that's why we say it is very necessary to inactivate enzymes. Got it? Next is destroying of microbes. For destroying microbes, we have 2 means. One is by using natural additives and the other is by using chemical additives. Natural additives are normally what is available in your kitchen, like your sugar, your salt, vinegar, spices, etc. These, when used in definite ratios, can help in preventing the growth of microorganisms. and sometimes they kill them also. Then we have chemical additives also. Chemical additives, sometimes we use potassium metabisulfite, sometimes it is sodium benzoate. These give out sulfur dioxide or benzoic acid, which are harmful to the microbes. They die when it is exposed to the gas of sulfur dioxide and benzoic acid. I will show this in more detail in the next slide. Now, coming to drying, as I told you earlier, we have sun drying or air drying. This I've already explained to you. And the next one is dehydration. Dehydration, I told you, is artificial. Maybe use a dehydrator. In the next slide, I'll show you the picture of the dehydrator. Then under heating, we have different methods. Depending upon what fruit you're preserving and what form you want to preserve it, you can choose your method of heating. It could be boiling. For example, when you're making your jam with sugar and pulp, boiling is a method which is used to inactivate enzymes and destroy your microorganisms. Steaming, sometimes we use when we want to half cook the fruit. Like, for example, you're making amla murabba. Then you steam it, or you could even blanch for pet. When you make murabba with petas and all, we blanch it. Blanching is just half cooking the food. That is, we dip it into hot water for just 3 to 5 minutes, then take it out and put it into cold water. So that is blanching. Here the fruit gets partially cooked, not fully cooked. And then pressure cooking we use when you have some spore forming bacteria present, especially all those material fruits or vegetables which grow underground, like your ginger, your carrots, beetroots, etc. They have the spore forming bacteria. Spore forming bacteria are not killed at ordinary boiling temperature. So we have to use a pressure cook. And then we have the cooling and activation of enzymes. So here you could use either your refrigeration or your deep freeze. Refrigeration is a temporary method of bringing down the temperature of the fruit or vegetable. And here you can extend the shelf life maybe maximum to about 2 weeks. Whereas if you use deep freezing, then you can store it for months and months together. Then coming to these additives, natural additives, I told you we have sugar. Now, in case you're using sugar, ensure that you have at least 60 to 70% of sugar in the finished product. For example, you are making 1 kg of jam. When you finish your 1 kg of jam, you should have 700 grams of sugar in that, and the remaining 30 only should be your fruit pulp. So 70% of sugar if you maintain, then the microbes cannot develop or thrive in that sugar medium. And the way the sugar and salt act is that they draw out the moisture from your fruit or vegetable. When you add sugar or salt to your cut fruits or vegetables, you'll notice that after some time water separates. This is the sugar is drawing out the water from the cell walls of the fruit or vegetable, and then it binds up the water content, making it unavailable for the microbes to survive or for the enzymes to carry on their activity. So sugar and salt act in the same way. Sugar, you retain it at 60 to 70%, whereas salt, you should have a minimum of 15%. So if you have 1 kg of pickle, in that you should have at least 150 grams of salt. Then the third item, which is a natural additive in your kitchen, is your vinegar. Vinegar, because of its high acidic content, it prevents growth of microorganisms. Vinegar is actually supposed to be even more powerful than your chemicals, even better than potassium metabisulfite and sodium benzoate. So any pickle where you have vinegar will never get spoiled because it controls the fungus growth. Then oils also help in preserving, especially in pickle making, because it acts as a film over the surface of your pickle and prevents moisture from outside entering in. You know that water and oils don't mix. So if you have a layer of oil on the top of your pickle, say at least half an inch or 1 inch thin, if by chance your lid is not tight and you allow some moisture to come in, then the water drops which enter will float on the surface of the oil. It will not penetrate the oil layer and go to the bottom of the bottle. So oils help in that way. Then we have some spices. Spices like turmeric. Turmeric has antiseptic qualities. It has protective thing. Then mustard is another spice. Mustard is normally used when you have oils because mustard prevents the oils from becoming rancid. So your avocado pickle and all, they have a lot of mustard powder added to that. So spices, turmeric is there. Then you have garlic also. Garlic also has antiseptic qualities. So some of these spices help in preserving your fruits and vegetables. Then coming to chemical preservatives, as I told you earlier, we have potassium metabisulfite and sodium benzoate. Potassium metabisulfite is also abbreviated as KMS. It's not the correct chemical formula, but for convenience sake, we refer it to as KMS. Like when you want to buy it from the shop, if you ask the grocer KMS, he will give it to you. Sometimes he may not know what potassium metabisulfite is. That's why I'm telling you the name. Then sodium benzoate. Now there's a difference between these two, and you have to decide on which chemical to use. If any of your product has a red pigment, like for example, your grape juice or tomato products or any other thing which is reddish in color, then you use sodium benzoate, because if you use potassium in those cases, the color gets bleached. Suppose you make grape juice and instead of sodium benzoate, you use potassium metabisulfite. Instead of the rich purple color in your bottle, you will have a white liquid, because potassium metabisulfite bleaches a red pigment. So in all other cases, you can use potassium metabisulfite. Potassium metabisulfite is both a bactericidal agent and a fungicidal agent, whereas sodium benzoate acts only on fungus-forming bacteria. And then when you use these chemicals, you have to be extremely careful about the quantity, because if you exceed the quantity, it is harmful to your system. For example, if you use, I say, if you add, say 1 gram of sodium benzoate for 1 kg of pickle, your pickle will stay for 1 year. Now you say, suppose madam said for 1 gram for 1 year, so I want to keep for 2 years and I like 2 grams. If you do that mistake, the sodium benzoate is going to affect your digestive system. You'll have gastric problem. So follow the quantities, and the normal permissible quantity is 1 gram per kg of the finished product. Don't exceed that quantity. Potassium metabisulfite, you can use it for all other food products, like you want to make mango squash, pineapple squash, orange squash, etc. Then you can use potassium metabisulfite as a preservative. And there is a difference when you add these chemicals. When you're using sodium benzoate, you should always dissolve it in a little boiled, cooled, warm water, not cold, warm water. Whereas potassium metabisulfite, you can dissolve it in warm, cooled water, because sodium benzoate is soluble only in a warm solution, and unlike potassium metabisulfite, which is soluble in a cold solution. Now, these are the pictures of the dehydrators which I was talking about. The one with the solar dehydrator, it works on the same principle as your solar cookers. I'm sure many of you would have used solar cookers at some time or the other, where you have a mirror reflecting the heat onto the food material. So this, if you want to do in large quantities, if you have a, say, farmhouse or something, and you have plenty of materials to be dehydrated, then you could go in for this type of dehydrator. Whereas if you, in your homes, if you want, you could use either this electric dehydrator or the gas dehydrator. Here you have some mesh shelves in between the cabinets. You place your material into those shelves, push it inside, set the time and temperature in your electric dehydrator. Whereas in your gas dehydrator, there is no control. You have to take precautions. You have to keep checking every now and then to see whether your material is dehydrated or not. And to find out whether your material is dehydrated to the right extent, what you do is, when you feel it is dry, say you're dehydrating some pudina leaves. When you feel it is dry, take a few leaves in your hand between your fingers and try to crush it. If the leaves are brittle, that means it's dry to the right extent. Sometimes it will even become powdery. If it is not brittle and not powdery, that means you have to dehydrate for some more time. Now I'm moving on to the general tips. I covered the methods, now to the general tips. As I told you earlier, there are two principles which we follow. One method is to minimize the loss of moisture, and the other method is to maximize removal of moisture. Now you have to decide which one to choose depending on what method it is and what your priority is. Now, for minimizing loss of moisture, the only method that is open to us is by freezing it at a temperature below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And when you adopt this method, you can retain the freshness of your material, you can retain the flavor and the nutrients. There is no loss of nutrients, no loss of flavor, and freshness is retained. Whereas if you opt for the other method, that is removal of maximum moisture, where you do either dehydration or heating, it results in loss of nutrients, because heat destroys some of the vitamins and minerals. then there'll be a change in the flavor also. It will not be as good as a natural. And then your freshness is lost. Plus, there'll be some changes in the texture also. The natural fruit texture will not be retained. So all this you lose. But when you follow this method, you're arresting the enzymic activity and growth of microorganisms. And another point with this freezing is, when you take it off your freezer, you have to see that you don't keep it outside at room temperature for a long time. As soon as a material is thawed, you have to consume it. And never make the mistake of putting back thawed items back into the freezer, because during that period which you have left the food outside to thaw, some microbial activity would have started. So you have to take care of this. And when you're freezing, you freeze small portion sizes which you will be using each time. Like for example, for one recipe, you need about 100 grams of some material which is frozen. Then you freeze at 100 grams in a small container or a pouch and store it that way. Whereas if you say you freeze a whole 1 kg or something, and then when you want only 100 grams, you're forced to take out that 1 kg from the fridge, allow it to thaw, take out only 100 grams, and then put it back in the fridge. So when you do that, in between the time lap in between, microbes will gain entry into it. And after that, if you freeze it, it's of no use. So use it immediately after thawing. Now, another precaution which we have to take before we embark on our procedures of preserving is to ensure that all your chemicals and pesticides are totally removed. And for removing these chemicals and pesticides, I have listed down a few methods. You could choose whichever method is convenient for you. The first one is to soak your vegetables in a large bowl of ice cold water with 1 cup of vinegar added to it. So any external microorganisms present in the fruit or vegetable, or the chemicals and pesticides which are sprayed on them, will be dissolved by this white vinegar, and then you rinse it off later and take it. Instead of vinegar, if you don't like the smell of vinegar, some people don't like it, so there you can use baking soda. Baking soda, you use about 4 tablespoons per every liter of water which you use for soaking. You could also use either rock salt or ground salt. This about 5 teaspoons in 1 liter of water. And then turmeric powder, if you want, you can use 2 teaspoons per liter of water. So all this is for soaking. Select any one and soak these vegetables. And for how long do you soak it? At least for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. And when you're soaking it, rinse in clean potable water. And after the soaking is over, you throw away that water, take fresh clean potable water once again, and have it at ice cold water, because ice cold temperature will reduce the spoilages. Then you wipe the vegetable or fruit which you have washed with a clean towel, pat it dry, and then you can proceed with your preservation methods. Any questions here?
Madam, I want to ask you one thing.
Yeah, please.
Common preservation vegetables like green peas, broccoli, tomatoes,
Yeah, I'm
or
coming
fish.
to that. Yeah, I'm coming to that. This is just the methods of cleaning it to remove the pesticides and chemicals.
Question, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, please ask.
Once by mistake, I had put apple into the freezer, and then when I removed it, instead of drying, the whole texture of the apple went, instead of a crunchy apple, I was a soggy apple.
Yeah, you will not get it. You will not get it.
Yeah. So where is the question of freezer, ma'am?
I'll tell you when I go to the next slide. I'm touching on those points.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, first I'm taking up preserving of leafy vegetables, herbs and leafy vegetables. Okay. The best method of prolonging the shelf life of these is to keep them in like how you keep your cut flowers in a bottle in water. You keep these your herbs like your pudina, coriander, etc. in a glass bottle with water, especially cold water, and you don't have to keep it in the refrigerator. It stays for about a week like this outside in the refrigerator. More than 1 week, if you want to preserve it, then you have to freeze it. So when freezing, what you do is, your herbs anyway, you will be chopping it for your recipes, right? So you chop whatever it is, coriander, mint, or curry leaves, or whatever it is, you chop it fine, fill it into ice cube trays, or maybe even small containers, and freeze it for 6 hours in your freezer. After you freeze for 6 hours, it will become hard. Then you remove these cubes which are frozen, and you transfer it into Ziploc bags. And when you're transferring it into Ziploc bags, you make sure that you suck out all the air. You're sucking out all the air. What you do is you put your hand over the material, press out all the air so that it goes, and keep the opening partially open, just to insert one drinking straw into it. So as you press it from the bottom, all the air will escape through that straw. Once the air is sucked out, then you can close the Ziploc bag properly and then put it back into your freezer, or you can put it in your freezer boxes also. So this is the easiest method of preserving your herbs and spices. Frozen leafy vegetables, they can stay for some time. Now I'm telling you, bottom I have given you the method of doing some of your spices, especially like coriander leaves, pudina, basil leaves, curry leaves, etc., including your green leafy vegetables like spinach and other things. So what you do is, first you follow the chemical treatment to remove all the chemicals and pesticides. Then you wash it, drain, dry, and you spread it out on a cotton cloth. So when you spread it out on a cotton cloth, any excess moisture which is there sticking to the leaves will be removed. You can even give it a nice roll in the towel so that all the extra water is removed. Then you dry it under the fan or in a shady place so that it becomes dry. And once you feel that all the moisture is gone, you transfer this into a box. Or maybe what you do is, you take a box, line it with tissue paper, have a double layer of tissue paper. Then you put your dried leaves into it, close the top of it with another tissue paper. And when you're packing them, don't overstuff. It should be packed lightly. Then you cover it with the tissue paper, close it, and refrigerate. This under refrigeration temperature, this stays for about 10 to 15 days. So all your herbs and spices can be stored this way also. And in between, you check periodically. Sometimes the tissue, if there is excess moisture, the tissue paper becomes soggy. So you'll have to change the tissue paper frequently. Maybe every third or fourth day, you can check. And instead of tissue paper, you could also use your cotton napkins. Then your leafy vegetables also, you follow the same procedure. Wash, pat dry, spread on a clean towel, dry it in the shade. Now leafy vegetables, you don't dry it in the sun, because if you dry it in the sun, some of the nutrients will be lost and there'll be a change in the color also. So dry it only in the shade. It takes about 2-3 days for drying, like your drumstick leaves, your palak, your methi leaves, all this can be dried this way. And you continue drying till I told you, when you take it between your fingers, the leaves should either powder easily or they will become brittle. Then you store them in airtight bottles and keep it in a place far away from moisture. In case you want to save the space, you could even powder these leaves and keep it in bottles. So this is your leafy vegetables and herbs. Then I go on to other vegetables. Other vegetables like, say, onions, potato, garlic, etc., you normally store it separately. Don't allow them to be in the same tray. Keep it in different trays, far away from each other, and dry. Keep it maybe on your countertop or in a dry area. Hard vegetables like pumpkin, radish, carrot, ginger, etc., they have to be washed thoroughly. Preferably, if you can use a soft brush and scrub out the dirt and take it, it will be good. Then vegetables like bitter gourd, ridge gourd, etc., you remove all the ridges. The other vegetables, I've told you what to do. Beans, you can remove the ends. Peas, you shell them. Cauliflower, you separate the florets. Tomatoes, you remove the stem cavity. Mushroom, you don't wash. You store it in the container with holes or in a plastic bag lined with cotton cloth. Then whole vegetables like beans, brinjal, ivy gourd, lady's finger, etc., you wrap them in tissue paper and store in plastic boxes and close airtight and refrigerate all of these in your vegetable tray or chiller tray. If you do like this, you can keep it for about a week. These are the whole vegetables, how to store them. Now, vegetables can also be sliced and frozen. Slicing and frozen, what you do is you remove all the inedible portions, the peel, the seeds, etc. Slice them, place it on a tray in a thin layer, and keep it in your freezer with a cling film over the plate for about 6 hours. After 6 hours, these vegetables will be frozen. Then you transfer them into Ziploc bags or other boxes and keep it back in the freezer itself. You shouldn't put in the lower shelves. It has to be in the freezer itself to retain at that same temperature. Then cotton bags or netted bags, paper bags may also be used to store whole vegetables inside your vegetable tray. All these methods you can use for about 2 weeks, not more than that. Then dehydration of other vegetables. Most other vegetables can be sliced, dehydrated, or sun-dried. Later, you can soak them in water and use to cook by softening them. Some of the dehydrated vegetables can be fried. Like, for example, if you have dehydrated potatoes, bitter gourd, green chilies, beans, etc., you can fry them in oil like chips. Or nowadays, you get this air fryers. You could use that also. Then some of these vegetables, you can powder them. For example, if it is raw mango, which you have dried, you can convert it into amchur powder. You can make your own amchur powder. Potatoes also, you can convert it into fine powder and you can use it for making your aloo parotas or patties or whatever it is. Tomatoes can also be dehydrated. You can have it in either in the form of slices or in the form of tomato powder, which you can use for making soups and things like that. Then onions, garlic, ginger, these are spices. I've given how the method of what to do to dry them. You wash, peel, wipe, dry. Then you can either slice them or you can grate them or you can blend them and then dry it on a thin plastic sheet or something till it is perfectly dry. So that's how you preserve some of these spices. Now, moving on to fruits. To extend the shelf life of whole fruits, you line a cardboard box with hay and place, if you're taking mangoes, you place the mangoes leaving gaps in between. You place onions in the gaps without touching the mangoes because onions absorb all the moisture and it prevents over ripening. And then you cover it with a newspaper. As and when the mangoes become ripe, you either consume it or you transfer it to your fridge and in different forms in whatever way you would like to use it. Then you could wrap these individually in tissue paper and store in paper bags. Or you could take out the pulp of the mango, freeze it and use it. Or you could make a juice out of it. If you want to store the mango juice as such without freezing, what you do is you add 3/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite for every liter of juice that you have. So if you have 1 liter of mango pulp, you add 3/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite and 1 teaspoon of citric acid because citric acid starts a chemical reaction. So 1 teaspoon of citric acid, you mix it up well and pour it into a bottle, leaving 1-inch headspace. Once you do this, you don't have to keep it in the fridge. You can leave it outside because potassium metabisulfite helps to preserve. Then you could also convert it into your sherbets like fruit squash, fruit crush. You can make a mango jam or fruit butter, fruit cheese, etc. So these are the various options of preserving mangoes, either in the whole form, or in the pulp form, the juice form, or in the dehydrated form. Then you can also make items like murabbas, where you cook the fruit pieces in sugar syrup and store it. Here, the sugar percentage will be much more than 70%, your murabba syrup. So it will definitely stay without getting spoiled. Slices can also be packed and stored in Ziploc pouches in a freezer. So when you are keeping the mango slices as such, what you do is you sprinkle a little sugar on the sugar granules over the slices so that the browning doesn't happen. And you should use a stainless steel knife, otherwise due to that enzymic activity, your mango will become brownish in color. So you could preserve your mango slices also that way. The best would be to preserve it in the pulp form or the juice form, if you're depending on what you're going to do. Then like ripe mangoes, you can also preserve your raw mangoes. Raw mangoes can be sliced and dehydrated. So, and the slices can be used later for pickling, or if you want, you can make powder out of it and use it as amchur. Apart from pickles, you can make raw mangoes into sweet chutneys or spicy chutneys, or even raw mango murabba can be prepared. Then you can make some drinks like raw mango panna is another option. And both raw and ripe mango pulps can be dehydrated and converted into aam papad or fruit bars. This I'm sure you must be doing at some time or the other. You may have done it. Aam papad is a very popular dish. Then going on to bananas. Bananas, they tend to get spoiled very fast, especially when the climate is very warm. So to extend the shelf life, what you do is you wrap only the stem portion of the bananas in aluminum foil or plastic sheet and refrigerate in paper bags or cotton bags. By doing this, you can extend it at least up to 1 week. Over-ripening can be controlled. Then another option of late is this ethylene absorption system. You get these on Amazon. These are nothing but blue. They give you 2 balls. One system has 2 balls. So what you do is you take a container in which you want to keep your bananas. First, you place 1 blue ball at the bottom. Over that, you place your bananas. And then over the bananas, you place the second ball. And then you close your container and keep it. So when the ethylene is released, these balls will absorb the ethylene, and over-ripening of your bananas can be controlled. The other option to control your, the other option to preserve your mango is by mashing up the bananas. Take the pulp and store it in a freezer. Banana as such, if you store, like what she said about apples, it will lose its texture and things. So best is to store the pulp. The pulp you can take and use it for smoothies, your cakes, jams, halwas, etc. And you have one more option of bananas, that is dehydration. I don't think any of you have heard of dehydrated bananas, but dehydrated bananas, when you do it, it tastes just like your dates. So one banana, which is about say 6 inches or something, if you have to peel it and dehydrate. When it is dried completely, it will become brown in color. It will have the appearance of dates, and when you chew and eat it, also it will be sort of leathery in your mouth. This dehydration of bananas has a very big market in Russia. Our horticultural department in Bangalore has been exporting these dehydrated bananas to Russia. Now, some more fruits continued. Taking up lemons. Lemons, you wrap them in foil or store them in cotton bags. Next option is to sprinkle some salt and store it in bottles, or you store in bottles with oil rubbed over it. You can pour a little oil so the dryness can be prevented. Then a still better method will be to extract the juice. When you keep the whole lemon in the fridge for a few days, it tends to become dry. So you extract the juice and preserve it either with salt, sugar, or KMS. Now, in case you want to preserve lime juice with salt, you follow the same calculation which I told you, that is 15% of salt. So if you have 1 liter of lemon juice, you add 150 grams of salt to it, shake it up nicely, and you can keep this in the fridge. It stays at least for about till the next season, it stays, it doesn't get spoiled. Similarly, if you're having sugar, what you do is for 1 cup of juice, you take 2 to 2.5 cups of sugar. First put the sugar into the bottle and then pour your lime juice over it. Shake it up. This takes about 2 to 3 days for coming into a solution. So you could place this in the sun for about 2-3 days. In case there isn't enough sunlight and the sugar is not dissolved, you give it a hot water bath treatment. That is, you take a bowl of hot water, not boiling water, but hot water, and you immerse this bottle containing the lime juice and sugar into it. Keep it for a few hours and keep on shaking the bottle till the sugar completely dissolves. Once the sugar is dissolved, this will stay. It will never get spoiled. You can keep it up to 2 years. Then in case you have people with diabetes or you have people with BP who cannot take salted and sugary items, you have the option of using your potassium metabisulfite. Very simple. As I told you earlier, for every 1 liter of juice that you have, you take a 3/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite, dissolve it in a little cold water, pour it into the juice, and fill it into sterilized bottles, leaving half-inch headspace on the top. So this way you can store your lime juice for a long period. And whenever you want, if you want to make your sharbat, you can take out a little, add sugar and make a sharbat and drink. Or if you want to use it for your cooking purposes, Like when you make your lemon rice or your poha or something, you can take a little of this juice and add it. So this is another option of preserving lemons. And one last option is to convert it into citric acid. What you do is you don't have to buy your citric acid. You squeeze out all the lemon juice, strain it to remove the seeds and pips, and then transfer it into a plate. When you're transferring it into a plate, don't let the height go beyond 1 centimeter. And the plate should not be a metallic plate. It should be either a glass plate or even your ceramic plates. Because this is highly acidic, the acid will react with the metals. So this plate containing the juice, you keep it probably under the fan or a shady area and allow all the moisture to evaporate on its own. This takes about 2-3 days. Maybe if you keep it on the fan, you can hasten it further. And at the end of 2 or 3 days, when you'll find a white powdery material in the plate, just scrape it up, collect it, and store it in your bottle as citric acid. So these are the ways of preserving lemons. Apart from that, you know your usual pickles and things like that. Now your gooseberry, whole berries may be stored in a Ziploc pouch or in a freezer up to 6 months. Of course, when you take it out from the freezer, on thawing, this will become very soft. You can use it, depends on what form you want to use it. If it is for juicing, you can juice it, or you can grind it or make it into a chutney, or you can convert it into a jam. Gooseberry jam is quite nice. It sets very well. Only thing is it will have that astringent taste. And when you're making gooseberry jam, you don't have to add any citric acid because this has its natural acidity. Then you could also slice or blend and transfer the juice into ice cube trays and freeze it for 6 hours. Then you remove these cubes and store them in Ziploc bags. So whenever you want to have some gooseberry juice, just take out 1 cube, add it into a glass of water, and your refreshing drink is ready. So that's another way of storing your gooseberry, not only for your drink. Even if you want to use it for anything else also, you could use these cubes. Then juice can be stored in sterilized bottles and refrigerated up to 3 months. Here also you could add a little potassium metabisulfite, it stays. Then the other option is to convert it into your sharbats, maybe with sugar, jaggery, add some spices like pepper and all. It will be quite nice to drink. And then another way is to make it into gooseberry murabbas. Then you could also store it in honey. Clean and wipe the gooseberry very nicely. Give it a gentle prick with a stainless steel knife or fork and put it into your honey jar. And you keep it for about 30 days and your preserve in honey will be ready for use. Then you could also convert your gooseberries into jam or pickles, and like your amchur powder, you can even have gooseberry powder by dehydrating it. Now we come to tomatoes. Wash tomatoes, cut it dry, remove the top, cut it longitudinally into 4, and then you can line a plastic box with a plastic sheet and arrange these tomato slices in that layer over layer, maybe 2-3 layers, depending on the size of the box. And with each layer, you put a plastic sheet in between, and then you keep covered with a tissue paper and keep it in the freezer. This way you can keep the tomatoes for quite some time. It stays up to a year. The other method is to take the tomato juice and preserve it. Here you take out the juice, transfer it into a plate, into ice, and store it in Ziploc bags in your freezer. Then you could also make tomato puree to be ready to use for you. So here you cook the tomatoes by adding 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of salt per liter of juice that you get. And then you blend it, strain it, concentrate till the pulp is fairly thick. When you try to drop the pulp from the spoon, you should see only thick pulp falling. There should be no water separation. So when it is as thick as that, you add 1 teaspoon of vinegar and then you transfer it into a sterilized bottle, leaving 1 inch headspace. So since vinegar is added, you don't have to keep it, you don't need any chemicals. Then you cap the bottle, and this stays in the refrigerator for about 3 months. For longer shelf life, you can add a pinch of sodium benzoate for every bottle that you have. Then tomatoes also, like other vegetables, can be dehydrated. You can either dehydrate the slices, or you can dehydrate the slice and then convert it into powder. So here what you do is you wash and wipe, then you remove the top slices, cook till all the water evaporates, transfer to a greased tray, and then you dry it for 2 to 3 days. This is one method. Then you can scrape, sieve, and store in airtight containers. Alternately, you can dry the slices on a mesh tray, and the dehydrated slices can be powdered or stored in spices or olive oil. Now, having told you of how to preserve all these vegetables, my advice to you is to eat vegetables in the fresh form. So eat whatever you can in the fresh form, and whatever you feel is getting wasted or you can't and you want to preserve it for off-seasonal use, then you can it or preserve it. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Now, somebody was asking about apple. Apple, if you store the whole apple in a freezer, it will definitely lose its texture. So when you take it out of the freezer, as soon as you thaw it, you use it. Otherwise, it is better you keep the pulp. Convert the apple into a pulp and store it, freeze it and keep it. Any other questions?
Madam,
Can I ask-
tamarind pulp कैसा
one by one,
freezer
please.
करने का?
One by
Tamarind
one.
pulp.
Tamarind pulp. Tamarind pulp you can dehydrate and keep it. Or what you do is you boil it in water, strain out to separate the seeds and skin, and then boil it till it is very thick. All the water should go. When you take out and drop from the spoon, it should fall like in lumps. It shouldn't flow freely. So when it is that thick, that pulp you can transfer into a bottle and keep it in the fridge. It stays, it doesn't get spoiled.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have heard that bananas should not be kept in the fridge. Then now we can preserve is okay to do like that?
Bananas, they tend to get spoiled faster. That's why they say don't keep in the fridge.
Okay.
But the pulp can be stored in the freezer.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
In the fresh form, you have to preserve it. Yeah.
Madam,
Yeah.
in the village,
Yeah.
when this wheat is stored, some neem pattis are mixed with this neem leaves.
Neem leaves with?
Does it act as a neem leaves?
Mixed with
Neem
what?
tree leaves.
Mixed with what?
Wheat.
Wheat, that is cereal grains. I'm talking about fruits and
Cereal,
vegetables.
yeah.
Cereal grains can be preserved with the neem leaves. No problem. Because the neem has that bactericidal properties.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Ma'am, I have a question, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Our audio is not good.
A device which is called as a dehumidifier.
We can't hear you, Sushilji.
I'm sure, ma'am, you must be aware of a device which is used to remove the moisture from the air.
Pardon, your audio is not clear at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is with regards to dehydration.
Yeah.
There is a device which we normally use, which is called dehumidifier, which is used dehumidifier.
Okay.
Which is actually being used to remove the excess of moisture from the air.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible? Is it advisable to use that? If we can use that same device, we can keep these fruits and vegetables open in that area. Can that help in removing the moisture?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does help.
Okay. So
I was concentrating on home level preservation.
Yeah.
So there may be some people who are using dehumidifiers also. So I thought I would whether that is also possible.
It does remove the moisture. It will help to a certain extent.
It will help. All right. Thanks, ma'am.
Ma'am, what onion? How do we dehydrate onions?
Onions.
Yes.
You peel the onions, slice it, because you follow all the other precautionary methods of washing and all that. Then you slice it, place it on maybe a plastic sheet or something and expose it to the heat rays of the sun for 1 day. Then for the next 2 days, you take it and dry it under the shade, because too much of sun will cause discoloration.
Okay.
When you touch it and see, it should be brittle. When you throw it on the plate, that sound should come, or it will crumble between your fingers. To that stage, you have to dehydrate, and then you keep it in an airtight container.
Oh, it's so simple, is it?
Yeah, you can do it with onions, can be done that way. Garlic can be done. Chilies, ginger, all these spices can be dehydrated that way.
Really good. Otherwise,
AMS and all available in shops?
You're muted.
Yeah, no, I said thank you.
KMS and all available in shops? Huh?
Yeah, all your supermarket shops will have. And all these shops which sell items for bakery items and all that, no? Colors, essence, and those shops will have. In general, all your shops like Big Bazaar and Amazon, all of them have it.
somebody is not clear.
Not able to hear you.
Not at all. Network, not. You can put it on chat if you want. Miruna, I think it is.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah.
You must have been a great asset to your department as a technical advisor. My goodness, so many things in one hour you have packed.
I have so much more to tell, but the time is short.
I know. We will have another day for something grains.
Okay.
Is it advisable to eat?
You're getting muted. You're getting muted.
I think cut onion are generally catches bacteria. Is it advisable to eat?
No, Miruna, you're not clear. Your audio is very.
Yeah. You were talking about onions. They say cut onion should not be kept exposed and you should not use it. But
Yes.
dehydration is okay because cut onions, it has moisture in it. Whereas onion, when you're dehydrating, all the moisture is removed. When the moisture is removed, there is no scope for the bacteria to develop. It will not grow and multiply.
Sir is there now, yeah.
You get
So I think
dehydrated. You get dehydrated onions in Amazon, Big Basket and all, and get it in pouches.
Okay.
And
any other?
They will be using the mechanical dehydrators. As soon as it is cut, it is put into a dehydrator. It's not exposed to the atmosphere. Yes, sir. Somebody else was asking a
My
question.
sir was online. Yeah.
No, nothing. Any last question? Otherwise, we take this up. Yeah, I'm audible, Veena madam, or you can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
yes,
audible,
you're
sir.
audible, you're audible.
Okay. So I think on behalf of MRL, once again, we thank very much, Madam Hema Radhakrishnan. I think it was a fascinating session. A lot of knowledge was coming, and a lot of things which we did not know actually, or we do not practice. A lot of
I'm
new
glad
things.
that I shared it with you.
And thank you very much for being with us. Thanks a lot, and thank you very much, Veena madam also.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
I would also like to thank you. First, I would like to thank Veena for introducing me to your group. Thank you, Veena.
Thank you, madam.
So,
Thank you.
one minute, please wait. Now the takeaway surprise gift.
I would also
she
like
has
to thank,
written,
1 minute. I would
yeah.
also like to thank Dr. Sen Gupta for giving me the opportunity to address you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everyone for the surprise gift. So she has written a booklet on this in detail, which she has been very kind enough to share to all of us, which I'll be sending it to Dr. Sen Gupta. He will be sharing in the group. You all can download and preserve that PDF for you to go through every now and then also. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rama, for that.
Very nice. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice for the booklet.
Thank you, madam.
Very
Very useful.
useful booklet.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Veena ji.
Okay, welcome.